Welcome to the Crazy Wisdom Podcast. I've got Hannah Taylor here, and she is she's doing loving.university. Welcome to the show.
Thanks so much, Stewart. Thank you for having me. I've always just admired your mind. We met in person, actually, dancing, and then I've seen you doing this podcast, and I'm like, these are the conversations that I want to see happening about these issues. And so, thank you.
Did we not? Hopefully, you're not worried about location-based doxing. But did we meet in the mountains of California?
We did, yeah. I'm not worried about location-based dancing. No, I'm pretty forward about loving where we met, where we live.
Is the university in that place? It's called Nevada City. I used to be worried about location-based doxing when I was living there because I moved there in 2020, in March 2020, to escape the pandemic or escape the strange thing that happened during the pandemic, and so I moved into the mountains, and I wouldn't tell anybody where I was, but now I'm not there anymore, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, you'll talk about it.
Is it based in Nevada City?
I only run my business online, really. I've done a little bit of in-person stuff. I'd love to do more in-person stuff, but right now the whole Loving University is basically a series of master classes right now. So I'm giving 4 to 6 master classes along with other teachers.
Oh, cool.
On community and relationship technology on the Village Principles.
What is the Village Principles?
The Village Principles are kind of my modality of what it means to take personal responsibility that draws your community in, basically. So there's a lot of people who are in acquisition consciousness with their community. They're like, how do I get community? How do I get community? And I call acquisition consciousness poverty consciousness. It's like, get, how do I get? So what the Village Principles do is they give me principles to follow so that I stay in distribution consciousness, so that I am distributing sacred resources of my time, energy, and attention, and then everything that flows from there. So I can give you the 3 principles if you'd like.
Sure.
Yeah. So the 3 principles are: number 1, I am the one. So I am the one is really the only principle, which is I'm the one this life is for. I am the one to do what I see needs to be done. I am the one. I am the one who's responsible for my emotional experience. I'm the one. And so everything else really flows from there. My favorite thing to say when I deliver that I am the one is the first thing is to say that the first corruption, the most tempting corruption, is to phrase it, you are the one.
Why?
And as soon as it's in second person, we're violating the principle. This is a first person beingness. This is an ontology of being the one. And then as soon as I say, well, you're the one, you got to do blah, 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 I'm in violation of the principle.
I love it because it will go directly into the non-dual stuff, because I can sense a lot of the non-dual stuff because it's non-dual. It's the one, but the crazy thing about the word non-dual is that it's not one, it's not 2 either, because numbers sort of fail at the point we're trying to get to, which is what we were talking about before recording, which is communication is so difficult given the nature of the universe and the nature of language, and how it infests and infects, although I love language, so I don't mean to be pejorative on it either, but any thoughts there?
On language?
Yeah, on language, communication, non-duality, how difficult it is to live in a universe where we have this thing that splits and separates everything, but then the universe is one thing, and there's no separation in the universe. It's only with the language that changes the way that we think. It's so strange. It's a paradox. So many paradoxes. Yeah.
Do you have an existential crisis warning on this? Maybe we put one at
that's interesting. I've never thought about that. I mean, the name Crazy Wisdom, hopefully, kind of, yeah, it's I actually chose that, the name, because in 2018, 2019, because I was going through my own existential crisis and worried about going crazy. And I think I went crazy somewhere along the way, but then I got really used to it, and now I kind of relaxed into it. Hopefully, found some wisdom in there, but who it's difficult to determine whether one is wise or not.
Yeah. So one of the things that I say, first of all, I'll say that non-duality is not my preferred term. My preferred term is equanimity. So understanding that all things are equal. So I taught emotional mastery in June, and that was one of my things. And I had someone be like, "Okay, well, I mean, I've been studying non-duality all this time, and so like we're supposed to just like sit with the shame and sit with the anger." And I'm like,
Yeah,
"This is a very dual understanding of
yeah, yeah,
non-duality. Like
yeah,
you
yeah,
have to
yeah.
sit with your happiness too. Like kind of like you're still splitting it, and you're still doing something different with what you've called the unpleasant or bad emotion, and
Mm,
something else with what you've called the pleasant or good emotion. And so, what I like to say is that the earth is not designed for humans, it is
mm,
habitable by humans. So, I must curate my experience, and I am the one curating my experience such that it somehow aligns with my preferences when most of the world is not going to do that.
mm.
And
Yeah,
that's my free will.
that's hard because that's the world really wants you to align with its preferences, and its preferences are a bunch of like very diverse range of all sorts of things that could come up at any time from any different vector, both for the good and for the bad. But those are again difficult labels to understand the whole thing. But yeah, curating experiences, I love that. Um, Man, aligning preferences. How do you deal it when the world kind of asks or requires you to align with its preferences?
Well, I think that that's kind of the plan. And so when I teach boundaries, I teach holding an incredibly high standard because a lot of people know that the world is going to violate their preferences and then they plan for that. And
Mm,
so what I plan for is to have a perfect experience. And
mm.
then when the world violates my preferences 18 times, I'm like, okay, I'm still comfy.
But well, wait, say that again. So but you notice the pattern 18 times, and then what do you do?
Well, I'm saying that like what I would do is I would set my standards so high that
Mm,
if the
mm.
world failed to meet them 8 times, like 8 layers down, I'm still comfy. Right? So if I'm
Oh.
planning for absolute luxury, this is my where boundaries are the standard I set for my life, the standard that I live into,
Oh.
right? Um and this is so practical. Like, for example, I went and visited a community house and my friend watched me unpack my stuff and she's like, "You can bring that? You can bring that?" Like, I would have just gotten here and been upset they didn't have it. And I'm like, "Yeah, I mean, sure." So it's like, I'm going to plan
Ooh,
for,
I really like that.
yeah, I'm going to plan for the very best possible experience so that when the world violates my preferences, I still have most of what I want.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And that goes back to the what did you call it? Distribution mindset?
Yeah, distribution
Um,
consciousness. Yeah, wealth
distribution
consciousness.
consciousness. It's just like uh, planning for perfection, knowing that perfection is never going to happen. But in that case, you've already planned for it because it's like, but the usually planning comes along with the anxiety, which is like, oh, I got to
Mhm.
plan for all the negative edge cases. But
Mhm.
really, what you're planning for is perfection, and then starting there, and then allowing for the universe to do what it does, which is all of the infinite edge cases to make us question like why we actually want the things that we want. Um, what's your relationship to desire and wanting, and how does that fit into your framework?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked that because I've been vibing on this idea lately that it's actually not desire like what do I want? That is the shallow desire.
Mm,
That's the desire that we have when we're full of all of the bullshit of the world.
mm,
When we empty of the bullshit of the world, when we really achieve emptiness, what we find is the desire that is about who do I want to be?
mm,
That is the eros that runs my life.
mm,
Who do I want to be in this moment? Because if my moments are governed by like, do I get what I want? Do I not get what I want? Do I get what I want? Do I not get what I want? Then I'm just like, but if I'm confronted with a situation in the world, and this is one I get my clients with all the time, they'll
mm,
be like, they did this and I get to do this and I can be like this. And I'm just like, great, great, great. Yeah. So who do you want to be? And they're like, fuck
mm.
you. And I'm like, yeah, that's what I love to hear, because that's at the end of the day, I have every right to be righteous, vindictive, sanctimonious, all these things. Do I want to be that though?
Mm. Yeah, and it gets to identity, and identity is so interesting. I've been having a lot of conversations with my one friend who is very philosophically inclined and is very young as well. And he's a Zoomer, and he reads lots of deep philosophical texts, things that I've never been inclined to do because the language is so crazy with a lot of the philosophers. It's so hard to understand. And so he mentioned this point about identity. There's a philosopher called Carl Schmitt, and Carl Schmitt is kind of like a controversial figure, very controversial figure. And he talks about identity and friend-enemy relationships. And this is a realist, so he's talking about it from this perspective that we're all human beings. We all have friends. We all have enemies. Usually, don't want to talk about the enemies, but they're there. And unless we're like enlightened beings, generally we have enemies. And Jesus had enemies. And Jesus, from my understanding, was an enlightened being. And so he had enemies. He didn't treat them as enemies, but other people viewed him as an enemy. But that all comes down to identification, identifying who you are, and then in your relation to other people, whether they're a friend and an enemy, and being very clear about that, who they are. And so the identification is really beautiful. I like but at the same time, both me and my friend have talked a lot about how identification is in the same way with language, because oftentimes when we speak, we're identifying I am this person, I am bounded by this thing, but it goes back to what we started with, which is the universe is one thing, so it's impossible to just be this thing. But at the same time, if you don't have boundaries, then you're like kind of walking around as an amoeba, and very difficult. Or whatever you want to, I just threw a lot at you. Anything?
Yeah, I mean, I love this so much because what I say is that distinction fuels connection, right? Without distinction, we cannot connect, right? So is my hand connected to my hand? It is my hand, right? Like I can touch my hand with my hand, but I can't touch my head with my head, right? Like oneness doesn't have connection or experience. So this is why we live in this fractally distinct universe, is so that we can have experience. And so it's like my body, the cells in my body, they're always different. They're always changing. This is always me, right? But I'm not really big. I think like what you're calling to when you talk about identity and language and these things is like what I call abstraction, which I'm sure you're also familiar with this, but I really do believe like identity is an abstraction. When we hear people talk about wanting a relationship, that's an abstraction, right?
Ooh, wait, so go more into that. What a relationship and abstraction? Because they want that, like an ideal relationship. Is that what you're talking about?
Well, you know what? The trick with the abstraction is that it's not just that we can imagine an ideal, it's that it stands in place in lieu of us imagining anything at all.
Interesting. Yeah, it's
right?
Like, an object that attracts our attention and destroys all the other potentiality.
Well, but it lets us actually not get specific. The abstraction stands in the way of us truly defining. So, for example, I go in on monogamy all the time as an abstraction, and I'm not polyamorous either. That's also an abstraction, right? So I say I'm not polyamorous. I'm a team player. But yeah, so like the way that I live relationships is like whatever exactly this relationship is, there's where we are, and we don't need to define it, and like we live into it, it grows. But like when we put an abstract label on something and say I want monogamy, I'm like, hey, yo, PS, that doesn't mean anything. Just so you know, that doesn't actually mean anything. Like house doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, I love it. It reminds me of the Course in Miracles, which I don't talk about, probably never talked about it on the show, but A Course in the Miracles for our listeners is that it's a guidebook and a workbook where you basically do one lesson a day. And the first lesson starts off with, my thoughts do not mean anything. And like, yeah, we're just like, just don't, like, they don't mean anything. Like, I ascribed the meaning to them, and generally the meaning that most people ascribe to them is what they learned when they were kids, which makes a lot of sense because it goes back to language. It's like this tool that we use in order to ascribe meaning to things that don't exist outside of their context. But yeah, what do you think?
I mean, my empowerment triangle. So we know the disempowerment triangle is victim, perpetrator, rescuer, drama
Mm.
triangle, whatever, domestic violence triangle, whatever we want to call that.
Mm.
And I say that the soul and lifeblood of that triangle is the rescuer, right? The
Mm.
rescuer sees that something in the world is going wrong and something needs to be done about it, right? So I love the Dao De Jing, so I'm not about doing things.
Mm.
um, so I use the empowerment triangle, which is anything, everything, nothing, right? So
Great abstraction there. Everything. Say it again.
everything, anything, nothing.
Okay. Everything, anything, nothing. Okay. Go. Go. Keep it going. Didn't mean to
So,
interrupt.
so basically, the rescuer runs the drama triangle because they're trying to fix reality. And the empowerment triangle shows us how reality is.
Mm.
And it simply is.
Mm.
And so I say that the only sin is the idea that something is going wrong here.
Mm.
And the thing that makes it a sin is that I go to hell right now for so long as I believe that.
Mm.
So the idea that something is wrong here sends me to hell as long as I'm believing that, and then I'm sitting in hell as long as I believe that. And when I come to the understanding that reality is, it is. I mean, you could call it right even, but you could just say that it is, you know.
Mm. Mm.
Then the triangle helps me to understand that everything came from and will go to nothing,
Mm.
right? That what's possible on this planet is anything, like anything. So I can think anything, I can do anything, I can have the impulse to do anything. And all we need to do is spend 3 minutes with a kid to see that humans are just capable of anything, right? And you're like, oh my God, I didn't even realize that was a rule and you're
Yeah.
doing it wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then everything is what's available in the world. Everything is what's coming at my consciousness all the time. So then when I inventory my thoughts, how much of that is really me?
Wait. Say. Wait. I didn't follow.
If I inquire about my thoughts, how
Uh,
many of those thoughts are really
oh yeah.
of my
Yeah.
essence,
Uh,
of my soul,
yeah.
of my,
Yeah. Yeah.
they're really just some of this everything and anything that's possible in the world. And when I personalize that, then that's how I manifest it to become real.
That's very cool. Um, and then nothing, because that's the thing that provokes a lot of fear, because it means like the lack of isness, the lack of being. But so far, I haven't been able to find nothing. It's just a concept, right? It's just an abstraction because so far there, it's like
Yeah. I mean, I think we're in relationship with it all the time, and it's hard to
mm,
identify because it is not there, right? Like it it's the nothing, but like up here we go to the river and that's like the void, the nothing for me, and it's like pussy
oh
is also like the void, the nothing, right?
oh
It's like,
interesting.
yeah.
Yeah. So why, but and why the river? Why does that represent nothing? Why like yeah,
Well, where's the river?
outside
What
of
is
cell
it?
phone contact?
Yeah. What is it though? What is the river? Tell me
Oh,
about
yeah, it's no thing. It's constantly moving. There, but I mean, the river is surrounded it's in a valley with beautiful rocks that are really stable. But over a long period of time, they're also moving all the time.
it. Yeah, I sit on that granite and I'm like,
Mm.
on a different time scale, this flows just like the water.
Mm. Man, talk about a beautiful spot. Like that place really is pretty miraculous. And I've very been all over the world and I've not found many places like that specific river. And although it's just a metaphor for our conversation right now, that place is pretty spectacular. What is the
Yeah.
deal with Nevada City? Why is it the way it is? What's going on there?
One time I saw a plaque actually downtown that it's like from 1850 and it's like, I went to visit Nevada City and all manner of man was getting along and loving each
Oh,
other. Like,
interesting.
yeah, it's like across that little bridge downtown. It's
Yeah.
like on the parking lot side of that.
Yeah, let's go talk about that because energetically, that place has some really interesting energy. I grew up in California. My mom took me everywhere in California to go all to the nature spots, but I had no memory of Grass Valley. I think I had asked her at one point, and we did like pass by it or something like that, and then ended up there in 2020, in March 2020, because a friend of mine had lived there and I'd gone there as I was getting older. But you go there, and there's some interesting. energy there, and it's hidden. Nobody outside of nobody who's never lived in California knows where it is. But
Mm.
it's like one of the most beautiful places in the world. Uh, like, how'd you find it?
Well, my life fell apart and I
Mm,
had online friends
mm,
only.
mm,
But this was one of the places that was in driving distance from where my life fell apart. And
mm.
I was just like, "Do you have a bed for me?" 'Cause they had been like, "Visit anytime." And I was like, "Careful what you wish for."
Yeah, yeah.
So they held me and I almost moved to Boulder actually. And then I like opened the listings and I was looking through it and I just started sobbing when I saw one in Nevada City. And I was like, "Okay, I guess I need to be there." So
Mm,
that's how I found it. And yeah, I mean, it's such a healing place. And but what I notice is that I think there's a lot of respect and there's a lot of curiosity and there's a lot of just like minding my own business
mm,
throughout the
mm,
community. Like, I'm only interested in your business if I can like cheer you on and
mm,
be in
mm,
celebration of you. And all that is very different from my youth on the East Coast. Like on the East Coast, it's like, you're fucking this up, you're fucking that up. You know, like people are just in your business just to judge, like just to condemn what you're doing. And I don't find that around here. It's a double-edged sword though, just like it is on the East Coast, you know. I think that there's some people out here who never ever get called out on their on their bullshit and I'm
mm.
like, I think it would be really good for you if someone told you that what you're doing isn't actually that good.
Yep. Yeah, that brings up a giant thread that we don't have to go into of California, but in general, but California does have that double-edged sword, which is, and it draws people there. I probably drew my family from Boston, from the East Coast, for those same reasons. I grew up in California, and California is no longer the same place as it was that I grew up in, and so now I found another place that reminds me a lot of California, which is Argentina, and specifically Buenos Aires is like that as well, where people just don't they will not go into your business because they couldn't care less, and and it's great. I love it. I walk around the street and like as like if you get in somebody's way, they'll run right into you because
Yeah.
they just don't care. And it's like the political situation is because of that. It is a double-edged sword as well. But it's lovely. It's like the last free place on earth. And freedom. What's your relationship to freedom? What do you think about freedom these days?
I think that freedom, honestly, if you define it as anything other than personal responsibility,
Ooh,
that's it's just you know, like it is responsibility and freedom are the same thing.
interesting.
And when we think of responsibility as blame or blame takes over responsibility, then freedom is just rebellion, right?
Mm,
Against tyranny and control. So like in, you know, blame comes in when we're believing in tyranny and control, basically that and or Newtonian physics, right? Object actor stuff. But when we come to equanimity, non-duality, right? We're just kind of in this soup and it's
mm,
just like, okay, here's what is, now what?
mm.
Here's what is, now what? And that's my only freedom.
I really like that, and that's been a hint I've been getting recently is that the responsibility is such a core part of freedom, and that there's a romantic rebellion which has been really popular in the last 200 years of history, which is like we got to get freedom, but it's like the free the what you just talked about, where it's like it's not really freedom. It's trying to change the world in order to create an illusion of freedom, but it's there's no freedom because it's internal, right? It's an internal game.
It's in service to tyranny, this pattern, right?
Mm.
So tyranny says, here's your option, right? And then a free being under tyranny is like, oh, okay, well, I could say yes or no. And then my freedom is saying no to the tyrant, right? And so, and then the tyranny is durable to that rebellion. Tyranny plans on that level of rebellion,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Here's what doesn't plan for that level of rebellion: a delicate ecosystem.
Like, are you talking about environmental ecosystem or like all of it?
Could be environmental, could be a social ecosystem,
Mm.
right? Like if I say to my friend, "Hey, the dishes need to be done today," and he's like, "Well, I'm not doing them," right? Like
Mm. Ooh.
that harms our delicate ecosystem in our home, right?
Yeah, interesting.
But if I was a tyrant and I was like, you have to do the dishes right now, and he was like, no, and then I was like, you have to, like I'm ready to brook rebellion. I'm ready to like meet rebellion.
Yeah, and that goes to the violence, the force. One of my favorite philosophers, David Hawkins, talks about power versus force, and
Mm.
power is of divine origin, is not is spiritual power, whereas force is human and the animal and the tyrant
Mm.
and all those different things. And um, the and I recently I had. I now have people working for me, and it's been such an interesting experience to navigate that because, as you talked about with the Newtonian thing, it's like any action leads to a reaction. So any force leads to counterforce. So if you use force, that's going to happen. And it's just like a principle of the universe. And so if you use force to motivate work, there will be a reaction. Whereas the freedom part, if we're two free souls who understand our responsibility, then the work gets done, right? You don't have to do anything. But
Verse
but then
17 of the Dao De Jing.
it's
Verse 17.
that's a good one. Wait, what is it? What you got to say it?
Verse 17 of the Dao De Jing.
I got
I'm
it.
trying to think because I could run and get it. Well,
No, I got it.
I want Ursula Le Guin's rendition though. I'm spoiled.
Wait, no, I can. Okay, so we'll get the first one, and then we'll go to the second one, to the rendition, because I want to hear it. So the best leader governs in such a way that the people are hardly aware of their existence. The next best leader is one who is loved and praised by the people. Then comes a leader who is feared. The worst is a leader who is despised. Now that's the okay. And then there's another translation from Stephen Mitchell.
Wait,
yeah, who's the
there's
one
more
that
to that first though.
who's the one that you wanted to read from?
Ursula Le Guin.
Ursula. How do you spell it?
Ursula Le Guin. She's a sci-fi writer actually, and did a version of the Dao De Jing, which I think is
Wow.
the best
Okay.
English version.
That's interesting.
So good.
Okay, so we're going to read the Stephen Mitchell one next, which is when the master governs, the people are hardly aware that he exists. Next best is a leader who is loved. Next one who is feared. The worst is one who is despised. If you don't trust the people, you make them untrustworthy. The master doesn't talk, he acts. When his work is done, the people say, "Amazing, we did it all by ourselves." And
that one's close enough. The one line in the Ursula Le Guin.
No, I got hers. I'll read that.
You have hers too? Yay!
Chapter 17, verse 7 in Le Guin, Leguin, is true leaders are hardly known to their followers. Next after them are the leaders. The people know and admire. After them, those they fear. After them, those they despise. To give no trust is to get no trust. When the work's done right, with no fuss or boasting, ordinary people say, "Oh, we did it." Yeah, it's a good one.
To give no trust is to get no trust. Oh, it goes so hard.
And so that goes exactly what I noticed, which is that I don't want any naming any names or anything like that, but I had an opportunity to work with somebody really young. And that youth and immaturity made me realize that in order to do it, in order to manage, I would need to give a whole lot of structure, otherwise known as force. And I no longer want to do any of that. Anything there?
Yeah, I mean, I wrote about this in my book. This is one of the last chapters of it is that I practice love and entropy.
Oh, I love it.
I do not go to war. I do not go to war even with war.
Yeah, interesting. Yep.
It's what you were saying about Jesus too, where people made Jesus their enemy, but Jesus didn't make anyone his enemy, And so that is optional. And I say that that's the soul of conflict is enmity, right? Without enmity, all we have is dissonance. All we have is here's what you understood. Here's what I understood. Now we're triangulating, right? But if I'm you're my enemy because what you understood from our communication is different from what I was meaning, right? Then we have a conflict. But the enmity is optional.
Interesting. It's optional for you, but in relationship to the universe, where we recognize that we're in a world that isn't necessarily like there's. In my understanding of the nature of the consensus reality is that there's a bunch of we're in a bucket. Some of us are trying to get out of the bucket. A lot of us are still in the bucket, and every time somebody else gets out of the bucket, there's a threat there. And so there's a like, even though you experience no structure towards the world, if you happen to cross the world in the way that it doesn't like to be crossed, there will be a reaction. And this is one of the big challenges of my life, is how to understand how to skillfully navigate that, and also don't allow any hooks to be, because a lot of what you're talking about is what I call decentralized demonic processes, where it's like out there in the world there is a demonic energy. To call it evil is sort of like a unskillful language, but it exists and it's out there, and it's not good to have enmity towards it, but it also is there. How do you work through that?
Well, so what I taught last month was curiosity,
Mm.
which is super fun.
Mm.
So curiosity is the field, the vast field of the unknown. Okay. Everything I know about the world narrows that field of curiosity,
Mm.
right? It narrows what's possible. So I use that feature,
Mm.
and I only know love.
Mm. Mm. I like it.
Yeah. And when I know love, the possibilities are limited to loving possibilities.
Mm. Yeah, and it's not ignorance, but it's like a rejection of the reality statement like it's not rejection of reality, it's a rejection of the statement about reality. And so it's like truth and falsehood, that like falsehood just doesn't exist. Truth is the only thing that exists.
Well, it's the only thing that's going to get my attention, and attention is the prerequisite for experience.
Wait, go into the relationship between experience and attention.
I can't have an experience if something doesn't have my attention.
Oh,
Attention
interesting.
is the prerequisite of experience.
Yeah.
Like, and so this is, I mean, my greatest discipline is within me in terms of what I will and won't think. And I have all these strategies that I teach for how to end rumination. For example, like ruminating on a man who disappointed me. I just replaced his name with someone who is not worthy of my attention. Right. And then that's a signal overall. If I keep thinking the thoughts, I keep thinking someone who's not worthy of my attention. And eventually my brain listens. This is not worthy of my attention. I'm saying that every time.
Yeah, and that gets to the something I've been trying to put into an abstraction so I can get it out of my head, because it just keeps on rolling. Which is the thing that I call myself is not who I really am. There's much deeper layers to who I really am, but those can't be objectified. So I can't turn them into objects of attention, because they'll just be another object of attention, and that's not who I am, and that's not everything. But those layers are interacting with reality at all the time. And I've learned to trust those layers more, but I can't objectify them. But I am it. That's where, like, that's who I really am. And now I've totally lost how that can. The tension. It's like, yeah, no, I lost how I got there. Where where were we? What were we talking about?
Attention's the prerequisite of experience. That's kind of where we were. So
Yes. Yeah. Oh. So, but yeah, it goes back to identity. It's like fundamentally, how do I and it's all just kind of language games at this point, because that's real. Oh yeah, that was the thing, is that realizing that in other people it's the same thing, so their deeper layers are always paying attention to me. And even like if it's somebody who's really 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 disconnected from who they really are, even in that person, there's deeper layers that are paying attention, and those deeper layers are innocent, some may say naive, and but like loving, because at the core it's just loving, right? And even the animals, even a tiger is like, like it's loving. It just doesn't understand anything besides its level of love, right?
yeah, and this is how we don't make the tiger an enemy. Right, like the tiger would attack me, but that's not personal. That's not about it being my enemy. That's about it being hungry,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Enemy is the big. It's like the big abstraction that really is a difficult one to. What do you think about forgiveness and how does forgiveness play a role in what you teach and what you know, or what you are curious about?
Well, it's just really interesting because this month what I'm going to teach on is discernment.
Mm,
So I think that that's like a huge deal in discernment. But
forgiveness. Or,
forgiveness, I mean, my therapist as a child called me a miracle of forgiveness.
mm,
And
mm,
so, yeah, I think forgiveness is for the forgiver. I really don't believe in absolution from an external force, even if it's the person I've
mm,
wronged. Like the things that I have done in my life, the ways that I was emotionally abusive as a younger person, like my victims could forgive me for that, and I can forgive myself of that, but there is no absolution, right? I did damage, I did harm. There's no absolution, there's no making that right. That's just a fact. And like part of the forgiveness is knowing there's permanent damage that I have done.
mm,
And I don't need to hang myself up with shame,
mm.
but like I'm not going to act like, "Oh, I'm forgiven now. That was all okay." No, it wasn't okay. But that's just part of reality. Some things are humane and some things are inhumane.
It reminds me of the 12 steps. There's one that says making amends, and it's a huge part of the process to make amends to someone as long as they're in a place that they can hear it, and also that it doesn't harm them. And that making amends thing is so interesting because you're not doing it for them. You're doing it for you to be basically like the debt credit sort of thing. There's a spiritual. I'm reading this. I was started listening to this book, which is really interesting. Which I've been on this train of trying to understand economics and credit and debt and all these instruments and all these crazy capitalism things that are so important in our world, but so hard to understand. And so I've read a few books more from the sort of maybe neoliberal, neoconservatives perspective. And now I'm reading or listening to one from an anarchist. And it's really interesting because it's a radical political viewpoint, which is hitting all of my knowledge, right? So I'm not curious about it. It's like hits the thing where I'm like, no, that's wrong. Like that's a different ideology. But I like the anarchist. I like the anarchist because it's radical, but they don't believe in the violence and the force which the communists definitely believe in. And so this is talking about debt and credit, and from this sort of radical political perspective, is saying that there's a direct relationship between debt and credit in our moral religious philosophies. And in Buddhism, it
Oof.
happens. In Christianity, it happens. In Judaism, it happens. Like there's just this really, really strong relationship between economic debt and credit and moral debt and credit. Um, and I think the author is very right on that. Like that does exist. And I agree with it. I think maybe, well, yeah, I don't know. I haven't asked myself yet this about the monetary, whether there is a direct relationship between the monetary. Like I do want to pay my debts. Where I believe this author is going is that they say basically like we should repudiate all of the debt and like allow everybody not to have to be into these contracts. I'm not sure I would go that far. I don't even know if that's where he's going, but that's where I'm assuming he's going. What do you think? Do you think there is a relationship between the money, the capitalist debt and credit, and the spiritual debt and credit?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. And I think that that's the only reason it works. Like,
Oh, what do you
because,
mean?
well, so the thing that I've been asking people who come to me and they're like, I have all this debt. I'm like, okay, have
Yeah.
you ever
Ooh,
had less than no food? Have you ever
interesting.
had, yeah,
Yeah.
like you can't have less than zero of something real. Like,
Oh, interesting. There's no negative. Interesting. Yeah, negative is just an abstraction. Uh,
yeah.
uh, like only.
Literally, debt is money you got to spend when you didn't have it. What? We still let you spend it without having
Yeah,
it.
that's a really interesting one. It's like almost like the nothing thing we were talking about. Man, our whole system's built off of it, and it's all built off of the fractional. reserve banking, which means that banks can lend out more money than they have, and it's so crazy. It feels like it's all going to collapse really soon. But
Well, and this
soon
is,
could
I
be
mean, this
100 years. Yeah.
yeah,
Or
this is what I did with my wealth consciousness, is just understanding it's all here.
what do
And
you mean?
like, whether my lie is I have the money to pay for this, or my lie is I don't have the money to pay for this, right? Either of those
Oh,
lies,
interesting.
neither of those lies gets in the way of me having the actual thing here and now.
Wait, what's the actual thing here now? Oh,
Whatever the thing is I want. If I swipe my credit
interesting.
card, whether I have the money or don't have the money, I still get the thing. And so when I was first changing my perception of money, I literally was like, this is my princess card. It just says I get what I want. And I give it to the person and I get what I want every time. It's just crazy.
Oh man, that's a really interesting reframe. Uh, uh, so I think about I want to do an experiment. So we just talked about the debt based system, that's the real system, but now I'm learning how to manage that system and give my princess card, like give me what I want, which is more money to do these random treasure hunts and all these different things, and also just play around with it, like the actual journey of understanding the debt system and making a bet, because that's what all these people are doing, is they're making bets with the money about the future, whether it's down, whether it's up, whether it's negative, whether it's positive. They're making bets on where it goes. And I want to start making those bets. And one bet I've been thinking about, I just went back and forth with AI all morning about it, which was there's all these cryptocurrencies, and these cryptocurrencies, they offer interest. So if you stake your cryptocurrencies on their networks, they give you anywhere from 2% to 15% of what you've staked every month or every year, and some people are living off of that. But you have to look at the actual network and compare it to Bitcoin and compare it to the US dollar in order to see what you're going to get, and every month. And so I was looking at this one cryptocurrency called DOT, and realized that that's just a VC scam. All the VCs have their own princess things, and they've been doing the princess things for a lot longer. And but could be scarcity conscious there, because they're trying to like win at all costs, basically. But that's a total tangent. So we've got. I want to make a bet. I want to take some money that I'm able to access for 8.5%, and I want to take that money and do something else with it and see if I can bet in the future based off of it. So I'm going to try that bet. And so it's either going to be in Chainlink, or it's going to be, which is a cryptocurrency, or it's going to be in Cardano. What do you think about the future and betting? Do you like betting? What do you think?
I'm not a gambler. I am
Yeah.
such a here and now where like
Mm,
and this is, I mean, that's the thing about the princess card and getting everything I want. Like, I don't
mm,
want that many things. I want to live a contented
mm.
life. And so this doesn't work if you're in the what do I want as desire. If you're in the who do I want to be as desire, you can just spend the money. And what it takes to be who you want to be will always be there for you.
Go more into
Like
that.
always.
It didn't connect.
Well, like it's just like this is the kind of like what it means to be accessing the nothing,
Mm,
is to really, instead of the abstraction that says like I have to earn money, I have to, blah blah
mm,
blah, and I want things, I want the
mm,
newest thing, right? Those are all the abstractions. But if I come home to emptiness, to that nothing, and then I'm driven to act, this is the action that happens without doing, that the Dao De Jing is talking about.
mm,
And what I've experienced is that when I'm in alignment,
mm.
the money that it takes is always, always, always there, right?
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
It's just always there. And when I talk about doing this princess card thing, people are like, oh, that's nice for you. And I'm like, yeah. And when the person in front of me, when their princess card isn't working, I just use mine. I'm like, oh my gosh, your ID. They're not recognizing your ID. Here, use mine. Right. And have I gone broke doing that? No.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
who
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
I want to be? I want to be someone who prevails upon the belonging of every human in this society and advocates for
Mm,
that. What does it mean to belong? When I request something, I get it. And
Hmm.
so I don't care. I'll use my card for somebody else's groceries because that's what belonging is. That's what interdependence is. It's like there's no reason why I should get all my groceries and you shouldn't. Like I just can't. Like I'm not going to stand here and watch that happen.
Hmm. Yeah, the interdependence point is a really interesting thing. I've been trying to figure that out because for so much of history, like the reason why all these capital networks exist, and we have debt and credit, and like a lot of the early things in the 1800s and the 1900s were all about making sure that the community would have the money they needed to, and so you'd band together and you'd have interest rates, you have credit unions, you'd have all these different things to make sure that the community as a whole kind of has it. And we had like political structures that enforced that. But then starting around 1970, 1980, everything got financialized. So all of a sudden, just that debt, the fact that I owed the bank 10% means that that debt could be turned into a financial instrument, which could then be sold to someone else that I didn't know. And so like all these crazy like things started to happen, and now we're 30 years 40 years outside of that, where it's just like, particularly in the US and the West in general, it's just like the individual thing has gotten taken too far. And I like I'm very strong about individual, that it's important to be recognize the sovereignty of an individual. It's also impossible to deny that interdependence is a fundamental law of the universe.
Well, and
Yeah.
this is what I was thinking when you were talking about those deeper layers of the
Mm.
other person witnessing and you witnessing. Like our nervous systems do
Yeah.
resonate, right?
Yeah.
This isn't like nervous system co-regulation is like my friend Jordan talks about the way that just describing something invokes its opposite, right? So you're talking about like, oh, we're going to make sure that the community has everything it needs. Like we're invoking the idea that a community could possibly not have
Not
everything
having
it
that.
needs.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
How could that
Interesting.
be?
What do you mean?
Like the real resource is relationship. That
Mm.
is
Mm.
like the one and only resource, in my opinion. And
Mm.
money runs on that. Every resource runs on relationship technology. And so what I teach is relationship technology. But this is what we were talking, like what we wanted to get to,
Mm.
or what I wanted to speak about originally when I reached out to you is like how we are stewarding this unprecedented abundance
Uh,
in the worst possible way, which is to
oh,
live independently instead of interdependently, right? So we have this technology now that lets us be far apart from one another. And then we're like, well, what the fuck is the point? That's village principle number 3 is they are the point, right? That relationship is the point of my
uh,
time. I never gave the last 2 principles. The second principle is opt in, which is where I choose every aspect of my life. We touched on that with personal responsibility, but they are the point, right? And this is another thing my friend Jordan says about the AI stuff is he's like, I want to ask what's it for, but like 4 layers down, like what for, what for, what for? People are like, we're going to go to Mars. And it's like, okay, but
yeah.
for what? Like for
Yeah.
what? For
Yeah.
what?
Yeah. Uh, yeah. I've thought a lot about that Mars question, but I want to talk. Oh man, there was something. They. So uh, interdependence. It's like feral children. You have feral children. I studied them for a bit, and what happens with feral children is that they grow up, like without language, without family, without anything like that, and so they don't have the ability to have language because language is fundamentally a relationship based technology, and and then I watched this crazy series where they have people who are really good at wilderness practice go out and live on their own and see how long they can live before giving up. Um, and and solitude is great. I have no problem with solitude, but no matter who you are, unless you're maybe in the light and being type of thing, like you need other people for your sanity. So like and without other people, I tried it for so long. Particularly, it was funny because I tried it for like 5 years to get away from everything and become an ascetic. And then March 2020 happened, and by that point, I wanted to go back and I wanted to go dance. And then everybody else stopped dancing, and I had to go to Brazil to in order to keep on dancing. Even in Nevada City, I thought that they would continue dancing, but they stopped dancing too. And
But we might have gotten a cold. Did you consider that?
Yes, yeah, I gotta worry about that cold. Yeah, I did get a cold. I got a cold from my dance teacher in Brazil, and then I was like, "Oh, I got it. It's over. I don't need to worry about it anymore. I got natural immunity." But it did not end. It kept on going. I kept on having to worry about
So,
that fucking cold for a year, many years. Uh, uh, but okay, so we got a few minutes left. What do you think we should have been talking about? What anything left that you want to express about the Dao De Jing, about the three principles, about abundant? No, what did you say? You said
boundaried.
abundant and boundary. No, it was a reputation. Well, there's reputation as well, but there's also this like consciousness. You said just
Oh, distribution.
that's it. Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I could talk infinitely, you know. More than anything, I guess, like, my greatest concern is like, are we going to create are we going to create priority on humanity
Mm-hmm.
as we transition? Because,
Mm-hmm.
you know, my former roommate, like, he just went off to Alaska to fish, but he
Mm-hmm.
was saying it, like, his big thing is like, we built it, guys. Like, we can chill. It's built. Everything's built, you know? And I think to a certain extent, he's really right.
Yeah.
Like, we don't need to
Yeah.
keep building at the rate that we've been building at, but like, it's the habit of it, you know? And so it's like you're talking about like the 80s and the 90s, that's when people got to like buy our debt from us. But it's like all this abstraction, it's like the people who were on these lands that I'm on right now for 30,000 years or more, like they didn't need, you know, hedge funds, right? Like somehow they were doing it without hedge funds. Like I don't know how that worked, but
So California is an interesting one because California, I think they had a lot of fish, but their primary food was acorn mash. Like that's what they were eating. So, yeah, this gets into a whole other story. But one thing I want to talk about, which is the Amazon. Did you know the Amazon rainforest was stewarded? That they've found using lidar. They've from the sky have like sent radar beams into the earth and found out that there are like giant civilizations in the Amazon, and that basically the entire Amazon, the terra preta, the black earth, which is the best soil in the world, was basically created by generations of human beings in the rainforest who are taking this intuitive knowledge and basically creating like civilizations in the Amazon jungle. And the reason why the Amazon jungle is the way it is because of human beings. Like that just blew my mind that is real. Like and you can go fact check everything. Listeners can go fact check everything I said because I've certainly done it. And it's just I think like on the question of now it's built, everything has been built. It's really interesting because I think about it a lot, and I think like a lot of the people who want to keep on building say that the frontiers have already been reached, or no, sorry, there are no frontiers anymore. That except the big ones like space and intergalactic stuff and everything like that. And so that's their constant urge to go into it, but I don't think they've looked inside that much because every time I look inside, it's like, oh shit, there's a whole bunch in there. There's a lot of frontiers in there, but constantly, sometimes it's too much. But yeah.
well,
Yeah.
and what you're talking about though with the Amazon rainforest,
Mm,
like this is the thing because like in California, you know, we have these like
mm,
I don't know, from the East Coast, I was hearing all
mm.
these things about cultural appropriation and I was like, okay, all right, like how are we supposed to learn about each other? Then I come to California and I'm like, oh, okay, no, I see what you're talking
What
about.
do you
Like
mean?
this is really upsetting.
Yeah.
But like
Oh.
one of the like one of the ways that the land acknowledgements grate at me is they're like, oh, this land that they owned. It's like, first of all, like the gold mining here, this is not the land. Like, this isn't
Mm,
even the land. We're
mm,
literally living 80 feet below the land that the native
mm.
peoples lived on. Number one.
Oh. Oh yeah, because
Yeah.
they removed it all and
They
they put it in the
hydraulically mined it.
and
Yeah.
they put it all in the Bay Area. They in the Bay. They literally put it in the Bay.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Everyone thinks San Francisco's a dirty city, but it's actually the world's nicest landfill. So,
Wow. Yeah.
um, but this thing where the real crime, the real thing that we have lost is
Uh,
that wisdom that knew how to terraform the Amazon jungle,
yeah.
knew how to
That
steward
intuition.
vast swaths of land like that. And
Yeah.
we come here, like white people come here, cut down every tree,
Yeah.
right? Wipe out all the native like wisdom, and
Mm.
that's the real like, and then we're like, oh, and bodies have died, and it's like, yeah, that fucking sucks. Like bodies have died, and that's
Mm.
really rough. But like you're talking of about destroying tens of thousands of years of wisdom and then being like, look, we're doing
Yeah.
it. Look, a frontier has been reached. And it's like, so there's even this way that like possibly there were never frontiers then. And we've created frontiers of like, how
Mm.
do we come in ignorance and reestablish ignorance in a place where wisdom has been ruling for thousands of
Mm.
years?
Yeah, not only wisdom but knowledge as well. I recently got
Yeah.
so the conquistadors were actually really good at. If you have to go, let me know. The conquistadors were really good at they were much better than I originally thought at knowledge management. So, meaning that they actually did take relatively detailed notes of Mayan and Aztec civilizations. Um, and the Mayans had discovered, talk about negative and zero. Mayans had discovered zero. So, this thing that says that only the Indians had discovered zero, and then it came through Arabs into Europe. The Mayans had it as well. But like the knowledge management loss of the contacts between the civilizations was quite drastic. And it's sad that we've lost that much knowledge and
Yeah.
wisdom. But the wisdom is an interesting one because I think the loss of the wisdom was in some ways inevitable because of the two civilizations clashing to the point like there was no like neither of them I would say had the wisdom to be able to understand the other one and the disease had gone through before the real invasion started. But those are all rabbit holes that would take many more hours, so we can cover it the next time. Unless
Yeah. Well,
anything else.
and
Yeah.
I'll say too, like when you talked about the Amazon rainforest, like what I've heard about the Amazon rainforest is it's fertilized by the Sahara Desert.
Whoa. Oh, yeah. The
The
sand.
winds.
Yeah. Brings
Yeah.
yeah.
And so it's like this thing where, we have to get obsessed with distinction. We have to see separation. We have
Yeah.
to interact with separation. That is what experience is. But then remembering this wholeness and like the wholeness and the wholeness and the wholeness and like the
Mm,
wholeness only gets larger and smaller and like,
mm,
and what does it mean to have consciousness on the whole? Because that's the thing about wisdom is that wisdom tells us what to do with the knowledge that we have.
mm.
And so
Yep.
if we're an over knowledgeable society, that doesn't help us at all. And that's what I'm saying with we're stewarding abundance in such a way to drive ourselves apart. And so it's like I got in deep community with a community member that I now live with. I literally moved in with him this week.
Huh.
But if his Wi-Fi hadn't been out for 4 solid days a year ago, I don't know that we would be this close. I don't know that we would be because he started co-working from my house. He wouldn't have chosen that for himself. But the scarcity of losing his Wi-Fi had him understand how much better it was to get hot girls cooking him breakfast every morning for his work, right? Like he wouldn't have chosen that for himself. But like once it was chosen for him through the scarcity, then he realized interdependence was really the thing.
Was that the scarcity from the snowstorm? The crazy snowstorm?
Yep. It was no, it was a year after that, but it
Oh,
was
okay.
like 4 days of him being without power.
Okay. Yeah. I
Yeah.
remember those well. I'm glad it's over.
We didn't know each other during that one. That was a trip.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. How can our listeners find out more about you and Loving University?
Yeah, well, it's loving.university is one of my web pages. That'll take you to my online courses. And then www.hannah, Aline, Aline, Taylor.com. That's my thing. Oh, and my book, The Way of Devotion, is on Amazon. How am I the only person with that title? I don't know, but I am. The Way of Devotion by Hannah Aline Taylor. It's my like 75-page book, and I joke that it was either going to be tiny or it was going to be like 6,000 pages. So it's really, really dense. People read like three pages, and they're like, "This is like reading 8 chapters," and I'm like, "Yeah." So,
What a great name. Thank you
thanks.
so much.
Anything you want?